Here we go. Welcome everyone to the Comrades Marathon 2024 official training webinar. It is the first one for the brand new year, and it's absolutely amazing to be talking Comrades Marathon once again. I love this time of the year. Things are starting to get serious, which is great. So please do let us know if you can see and hear us. Pop it into the chat, and hopefully we got everything working exactly the way it should. So pop those into the chat. Let us know where you're joining us from. And if you are brand new to Comrades, if you're a novice, let us know in the chat as well. Also, if you have run multiple Comrades, if maybe you've done a couple of downs and this is your first up, please let us know as well. Or if you have done lots and lots of Comrades, you can let us know that as well. So please do pop that into the chat, and we will we'll take it from there. So what are we going to be? There we go. Shamal saying all working brilliant. So Shamal, thank you so much for that. Cool. Looks like everything is working exactly the way it should. So just to a quick introduction, so you know everyone who's going to be on the call with us today. Cool. Bishu's joining us from Oklahoma in the US. Fab. It looks like everything's working exactly as it should. Mine is giving us a thumbs up. Fab. So joining us tonight is the official Comrades Marathon coach, Lindsay Parry. For the past 15 years, Lindsay's been coaching amateur and professional athletes to PBs and podiums in some of the world's most prestigious races. Some of the names you may recognize: Lindsay's coached back-to-back winners of the Comrades Marathon in Caroline Wasserman and Shanae Bosman. Last year, he coached Del Brudrake to second. Phenomenal sub-6 Comrades last year. And he's also a pretty decent runner himself, also been to the Olympic Games and Commonwealth Games, led teams to there, and has a Comrade or marathon PB of 2:45 and a Comrades PB of 7:11. Just so you know who I am, my name is Brad, and I am known as the guy who lost a Backstreet Boy en route to running his very first Comrades Marathon. I joke about that, but I was a pretty hefty 165 kgs when I decided I was going to start running, and within 2 years managed to finish my first Comrades. Since then, I've gone on to do a couple more. So I've done 3 Comrades, I've done 5 Ironmans as well. Also joining us tonight is Sifiso Ngoma, who is the marketing coordinator for the Comrades Marathon in Pietermaritzburg. He works at Comrades Marathon House. He's been MC of the Stomp Awards in Cape Town. He's the assistant race director of the Pietermaritzburg City Marathon, as well as the race director of the Green Trail Run. Sifiso is going to be joining us and talking about some of the things that are happening at Comrades at the moment, and some of the things that you can be involved in the build-up to Comrades 2024. And also a very special treat this evening. We have got one of the Comrades Marathon legends joining us on the call. Sean Micklejohn will be joining us from Hilton in KwaZulu-Natal. He's the winner of the 1995 Comrades Marathon, which is super impressive in itself. But I think his overall Comrades record is just something to behold. He's got 10 Comrades golds. He's also a triple green number holder. He's run 31 Comrades. All 31 of them, I said all 30, it's all 31 of them are silver or faster. Absolutely phenomenal. Sean's going to be joining us and fielding some questions a little bit later, so definitely stick around for that. I think to get things underway this evening, also, just so you know, we love questions and answers on these and trying to make these sessions as interactive as possible. So please do post your questions. If you've got any questions throughout this presentation and webinar, let us know in the chat and we'll flag them and answer as many as we can while we are live. You're more than welcome to do that. And if I can ask you as well, you'll see there's a little share button right below the video that you are watching. If you are in any WhatsApp groups and running club groups, please do share this link. Let your running mates know about this webinar as well. Let's get them on and help them get their Comrades medal in 2024 as well. So let's get straight into the first guest this evening, Sifiso Ngoma. Sifiso, you've been involved with Comrades for a couple of years now. You've definitely found your feet and you're doing some amazing work along the charities, and you're going to just give us some general things that are happening with Comrades at the most. So I'm going to let you take it away, and then we'll jump straight into the Comrades coach, Lindsay Parry. Sifiso, it's over to you.
Thank you so much, Brad. Good evening to everyone from all over the world. I was seeing there on the comment section, people coming all over USA, South Africa, Botswana, Zambia. You are welcome to the Comrades Marathon first webinar of 2024. There's not so much that I'm going to say on my side. I'm going to just run through some few tips on how to join our charities, because Comrades has a hub of charities called Amabidi, whereby we we sign up 6 official charities. Then runners have an option to raise funds for those charities. There are various ways you can raise funds for our charities. Also a few updates around our entries and some important dates. And then our marketing, of course, the upcoming Women Boot Camp, and then the Comrades Expo. So going straight to our charities, this Amabidi charity was established in 1996, and since 1996 we have raised over 71 million rand. There are a couple of ways that you can assist or you can contribute to Amabidi charities. It's either you donate with your entry when you're making your entry, make an extra donation to a specific charity, or you can just split your donation across all charities, or you can just support them at the expo, during the expo, on the 3-day expo that we still going to talk about later. Also, you one of the most fundraising arm of Amabidi is the Race for Charity, whereby you sign up and raise funds on behalf of charity. And last but not least is the Toyota Win a Car competition. What is in for you as a runner if you are raising funds for our charity? Comrades Marathon Association reserve 500 entries for runners to raise or who will raise a minimum of 6,000 rand by the 6th of May 2024. Also, if you raise a minimum of 6,000 rand, you get to improve your seeding and start on C badge. The most important thing about this one, you still need to qualify, but it doesn't matter what your qualification, what was the time that you qualified with. If you qualified with 430, 450, you still so you skip a couple of batches and start up front on C badge. These are our 6 official Amabidi charities. It's Community Chest, South African Honorary Rangers, Childline KZN, Hillcrest Aid Center, Rise Against Hunger, and the Childhood Cancer Foundation South Africa. So basically, these charities come from different facets of life, and then they deal with different issues that our communities are facing on daily basis. To assist them, we can go through to the next slide. It's easy to sign up for Race for Charity. It's either you can just email myself and then I can create a profile for you, but the easiest way is to, when you log into your profile on EasyReg, at the bottom there, you put in your email and password, which most people forget for some strange reasons. But if you forget, there is an option that the EasyReg can reset your password. And once you access your profile, you scroll down, there is an option down that says join Race for Charity. Once you click on join Race for Charity, there's not so many things that you need to do. You just assured us you want to raise funds for charity and press yes. We just need 4 things. One, you put in your profile picture or a picture that will appear under your profile. Number 2, you select the name of the charity that you want to raise funds for, and then you can write a little story. Why is that charity close to your heart, or why do you want to raise funds for that charity? So that will appear under your profile when people are searching you on Comrades website under Race for Charity. Then you select the amounts that you want to raise. Once you are done with that and save, your name will appear on the list of our donors or of our fundraisers on the website. We are currently sitting at just under quarter of a million under Race for Charity alone, as it stands. And in all our fundraising combined, we are sitting at just under 650,000. So we're still very much behind. Last year we raised around about 4.9 million, and we still have time to chase that and went over and above and raise at least 5 million or above this year. So this is the second this is the second option, the raffle ticket or the Toyota Win a Car competition. So if you've noticed when you were entering, there was an option to buy a raffle ticket for 50 rand. And if you buy a ticket, you stand a chance to win a Toyota Corolla Quest on race day. The draw is live on SuperSport at 3:45 in the afternoon. I know because we haven't by the time we haven't reached our cutoff. If you are still running, it's okay. If you bought a ticket and you've won and you are the lucky one or the chosen one, we will call you after the race or on the week after the race to arrange for you to get your car. It doesn't matter whether you are a runner or you're a non-runner. Everyone is welcome to buy a raffle ticket. All proceeds from this ticket goes to our official charities. You can get these raffle tickets from our official charities. If there is a branch of our charities, of one of our charities next to you, they will have the physical raffle ticket. Other than that, they are also available online in Comrades website under our charity tab. And then that's it about our charities. These are the few updates that I would like to remind us. We entries are currently closed until the substitution period. We took 22,000 entries, 576. I'm putting this here because a lot of people have been saying or asking, are we still gonna open entries because our cap was 23,000. The answer is simple no. We will only open the entries now during the substitution period. Last day, Comrades Marathon have also allowed the runners to pay their entries in two halves. So if you have made your entry and paid 600 and you still have a balance of 600 that you need to pay, please be reminded that the last day to pay up your balance for your entry in order for you to line up in June is the 29th of February. Another these are the other important dates that you need to look out for. The withdrawal, the substitution period will start on the 15th of March. From 15 to 29 March, that will be the withdrawal period. That means if you have successfully entered Comrades 2024, and you have for some reason you are no longer be able to run in June, you can withdraw your entry within that stipulated period. And then if you haven't entered and you would like to join, or you have a friend who would like to join, we will open entries from the 1st of April up until the 15th of April. Entries will be on entries available will be based on how many athletes withdrew their entries, and we will sell them on first come first serve basis. Qualifying period, if you've running events between 1 September 2023 up to 6 May 2024, you can use any of those events provided it is it falls within the category of the qualifying events. We also have a couple of road shows and seminars. We're starting our road shows in Pietermaritzburg this year on the 6th of February. After February 6th, we'll be going to Run Zone in Gauteng, and then after Run Zone, we'll be going to Cape Town, and the last one will be in Pretoria. And then later we will have our novice seminars. We're looking forward to see you on those activities. Our boot camp, our women boot camp. Last year we introduced women boot camp to assist women and also to have programs that are specifically to women. As we all know, women their training is not the same as their male counterparts, as they have. As they are built are physically different from male. So there are some things that need to be taken up, especially for women separately out of other athletes. So our first boot camp will be in Durban this year on the 2nd of March, and the second one will be in Southern Sun at Sandton on the 9th of March. Our expo this year will start on the 6th, on Thursday the 6th, up until Saturday. Those are the times when we are opening. First day, the official opening will be at 10 up until 7 p.m. On Friday, we will open at 9 until 7 p.m. And then on the last day, which is Saturday, we open from 9 up to 4 p.m. So make sure that you get your goodie bags, or you get to registration on time. If you are coming in late, please make sure that at least you have, or you follow the right procedure to get someone to collect for you. Brad,
Cool.
I think.
Perfect. Sorry, Sifiso. There we go.
Yes.
Brilliant
I
stuff.
think that's it from my side. Coach Perry can take over. Thank you so much.
Before I let you go, there were two great questions about the
Yes.
charities. I'm just going to pop the first one up from Z. Z saying, what happens in case I qualify with batch C seeding and then raise 6,000 Rand for charity? Can I be moved to A or B seeding if I raise the 6,000 Rand?
Well, if you if you have qualified for C seeding, and your qualifying time puts you on B or A seeding, you of course you will go to A or B. But if you have raised a minimum of 6,000 Rand and you are on D, E, F, or G, or H, which apparently stands for Howick, you can start on C batch.
All right, brilliant. Okay, another question. This one was from Space Online Group saying, can you join Race for Charity if you've entered the race already?
Yes, that is correct. That's why you need to log into your profile or to your EasyRage profile. Just on the options there, go under your dashboard, and under your Comrades Marathon 2024 entry. When you scroll down, you will see Join for Charity. You click Join for Charity and put in those details I was explaining. If you somehow have any problem, you are more than welcome to send me an email. I'll help you through at sifiso@comrades.com.
Awesome stuff. Sifiso, one more before you go. Great question from Sipo saying, can males join the women's boot camp?
Sipo, you're being naughty. No, it's women boot camp for that reason. No, unfortunately, Sipo, we can't.
Awesome stuff, Sifiso. That is brilliant. Sifiso is going to stick around. If you've got any other questions, please do pop them in the chat. But it's time to get the official Comrades Marathon coach, Lindsay Parry, onto the webinar. Don't forget as well, if you have just joined the call, welcome. Let us know where you are joining us from in the comments. Please let us know as well how many comrades you've run. And we love questions on these webinars. We try and make them as interactive as possible. So please fire away your questions. We'll try and answer as many of them as we can during the webinar, time permitting, obviously, but we will get to as many of them as humanly possible this evening. Lindsay Parry, the official Comrades Marathon coach, it is over to you, sir. Take it away.
Good evening, everybody. I'd say close to one of my favorite times of the year. Everyone is obviously super motivated and pumped and ready to go. And I kind of see my role here twofold. One is to make everyone nervous enough to take Comrades seriously. I think there's a lot of that going around. We haven't done the uprun for so long that even people who have done the uprun are very nervous about what they need to do. And obviously people who are doing their first uprun are extremely nervous because it looks pretty daunting. And then, of course, there are people that have only done a down, only, should never say only. There are people that have done the down run, and now they need to do the uprun, so they are no longer Comrades novices, and they obviously are also very, very scared. So there is the profile of Comrades. You can see it there. There is an enormous amount of climbing in the first 36 kilometers of Comrades. And that is really why the uprun is so daunting. Yes, there's some climbs that still come in the second half, but honestly, you can just see from 0 to 36 Ks, you are going from almost sea level to just about 700 meters above sea level. So, it's just so much climbing in such a short amount of time Then in Changa, which when you're running, it seems like really crazy hard from about 40. It's on the up run, it's probably from around 43, 44 Ks, and that's about 3 kilometers long. But you can see on the profile there, just past 40 Ks, that it's actually still nothing compared to what you're doing in the first 36 Ks. So that's really what Comrades is about. I am going to go through the route in extreme detail on the much later webinars. The webinars are going to focus literally on where you are now, what your thinking should be around now and the next 4 weeks. And so, yeah, that's it as far as the route goes, other than to touch on a few key technical things, like the fact that Comrades counts backwards. So get yourself in that mindset now, because all the races between now and Comrades, with a few exceptions, will go as you finish 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer, 3 kilometer. The Comrades Marathon goes the other way around. They like to remind you how far you've got to go. So you'll get to 87 to go, 86 to go, and that is literally how it goes. So just kind of wrap your head around that. And then just as a final talk about the route, and yeah, I'm trying to walk the balance between just making sure everyone is very serious about what they're doing and that they do their training, and stopping short of having everyone too petrified. But this is the up run, the big hills. The big five are known as Cowies, Fields, Bothas, and you have done all three of those inside the first 36 kilometers. And then you've got Inchanga and Polly Shorts. The reality is those are not the only climbs. You've still got to get over Tollgate right at the beginning, 45th cutting, and around 14 Ks. You've got to run all the way up through Westville. Then once you've gone through in Changa, you've got the Harrison Not So Flat, you've got Umlas Road. I need to make a little edit there. And then finally, you've got a little Mpinchini, which is just before you jump up polys. And many people think they are doing polys when in fact they are not. And it's basically because your brain is telling you, surely I'm not going to be doing any more uphill, but in fact you do. Right. Getting into the meat of it, this is what we want. The reason why Comrades started doing first road shows many years ago, and now the reason why we do the webinar so we can touch more people and also interact with our international audience, is because that picture is what Comrades wants. If you have entered Comrades, we want you to prepare well for Comrades, and we want you to line up to start Comrades. Okay, that is such an important step. And of course, once you've started Comrades, we want you to finish Comrades. We love everybody to be a winner, but that isn't always possible for everybody. But you will be a winner if you finish Comrades and you get a medal. Okay, so touching on why do people not finish the Comrades Marathon. So around 2014, 15, quite a long time ago, we started sending questionnaires out, and I can't remember the exact year. It wasn't 2014, maybe 2016. We sent out, there was a fairly high proportion of people, or percentage of people who didn't finish, unusually high compared to most years. So we sent out around 4,000 questionnaires, and we got over 1,000 people who responded, and they literally told us this is why we didn't finish. And the biggest, I mean, the reasons are all there, but the one I want to draw your attention to and talk about this evening is starting with an injury. Okay. And so that is why I feel like my job, particularly in January and February, is to make sure that people are starting the process, make sure that people are getting consistent. But my job is to hold you back a little bit. Job is to make sure that you don't do too much too early, because if you start Comrades with an injury, that is your single biggest threat to not finishing Comrades. In fact, over 680 of the people who answered that questionnaire who didn't finish Comrades started Comrades with an injury. So the biggest tick you can give yourself to ensure that you get to the finish line is training conservatively, consistently, and making sure you line up with no niggles, bandages, sore anything. There are people who obviously don't prepare well. There's a lot of people who suffer from cramping, and it's a difficult one, and I'm not going to go into it this evening, but I promise that in the course of the webinars, we will touch on cramping and what you can do about it. And there are things you can try, but by and large, that's a fairly unfortunate one. And if you suffer from cramping, you generally tend to be someone who cramps. People who start with illness, that was actually second biggest failure, was people who start sick. The race is in June. It is a risk, and we will have a doctor that'll come and chat to us during the course of the webinars. In fact, I'm trying to tee him up for the next webinar. So we will have a doctor come and chat to us and talk us through some things we can do just to boost the immune system, and some do's and don'ts around training, competing, and being sick. Nausea, much like cramping, that does happen. We will also have a nutrition webinar. Probably the third webinar will be a nutrition webinar where we'll go through things to practice and work on as you lead into race day. Taking medication. Yeah, I've got a proper speech lined up for the last webinar on that. And then obviously burnout. And again, this is linked quite tightly to that starting with an injury. And that is that literally, if you're going to train hard and flat out and peak training from now already, then by the time we get into May, you're going to be so burnt out, so desperate for comrades to just come and go, that you won't have the mental strength that you need to just get you through the tough times on race day. And then finally, people who experiment on race day, new shoes, try products they've never used before in their life, all sorts of weird things that they think are a good idea that they think up in the 2 or 3 days into the race. So nothing new on race day. And again, we'll unpack some of those as we go through. But for today, one of my big focuses is on let's make sure that you line up uninjured. So where are we now? Right, we're 129 days to go. And I know that does depend on how you count. Obviously, I am not counting actual race day. So if you want to include race day in that, then you are 130 days to go. But you've effectively got 129 days that you can utilize between now and Comrades to prepare yourself. And the most important aspect right now is we want to lay the foundation. We want to prepare ourselves physically to be able to handle our 9-10 weeks of peak training that's only going to start in March, okay? Not in February, it's going to start in March. I really want you to focus on doing strength training. It's the earlier you add it, the better. We are going to have a strength and conditioning specialist from our team that'll come onto the next webinar. So we are going to focus on what to do, how to do it, and why it's so important. But I just really want to emphasize that the sooner you start doing the strength training, the sooner you're going to get used to it, the sooner you're going to have it as part of your overall routine, the lower the negative impact or the impact of it making you tired is going to be, and the earlier you'll start reaping the rewards of being a much stronger runner. Okay. Hopefully, the majority of you have qualified. If you haven't, that really isn't a problem, but the rest should be looking to qualify around about now. Okay. And the reason we like to qualify quite early is that it affords us the opportunity to do a bit of harder training, to qualify early, and then to fully recover so that, again, we can be on this journey where we're going to train properly through March and April and May for the race in June. What's very important, even though I'm telling you that now is a good time to qualify, or soonish is a good time to qualify, what's very important to qualify about qualifying is that the best time to qualify is when you are ready. Okay. Because that's the time that when you qualify, you're going to do the least damage. And if you are a marginal qualifier, it's also going to give you the best chance of being successful. So there are occasions and there are individuals that are going to fall outside of what is maybe considered ideal. And don't panic if that's you. You can ask some questions in the forum. we'll try and ask some questions in the chat, and we will try to give you the right advice to get you where you are. And literally, it's all about those last 3 months. It's about the last 90 days. Okay. I've said it a few times. I've used this word. It is one of my catchphrases. Consistency is the most important. If you do small amounts of running, often from now until Comrades, you're going to have a much better chance of finishing Comrades than if we ramp up to like a crazy mileage, grinding it out, tired all the time, sore all the time, and break down with injury. Then we start missing training, and it starts the cycle of panicking of, oh, I've missed so much training because I'm injured and doing too much. So for the new people on this webinar, if you've got someone in your running club they're doing their 14th Comrades and they are running 100, 120 kilometers a week when they get to April, but you're on one of my programs and you're only doing 65 to 70 kilometers a week, do not panic. Don't look at people around you. You need to train for what's appropriate for you now, for where you're on your journey. You've got to slowly build yourself up over the years to be able to handle those big things, okay? If you're about to qualify, you're probably tapering, or qualifying soon, you're probably tapering. And really, what I want to touch on there is that if you qualify now or soon or have just qualified, really just take 10 to 14 days to fully recover. Like, don't put any pressure on yourself to start training too soon. Really listen to your body. Don't do any exercise while your muscles are sore. So while you actually have that muscle tearing, muscle stiffness, muscle soreness, don't run on that, rest. Once that pain goes away, you can start doing some gentle exercise, some swimming, maybe some gentle cycling, but we also want to get mentally fresh. So make sure that you actually recover properly so that you can then have all your energy, mental and physical, for training in March. Okay. We are not in peak training. Okay, I know some of the things I'm saying are repetitive, but I really want people to remember it, hear it, and use it. We are not in peak training. We are getting going, building up slowly. That is the reality of where we are for Comrades. So, assuming you qualified last year, you're not about to qualify, and you are on, let's call it the ideal Comrades journey, then right now we're doing between 40 and 50 Ks a week, finishes bronze. You're looking around about the 60-ish K a week on Robert Mitchali. You're doing around 70 Ks a week on Bill Rohn. And then your silver Isabel Roche Kelly's in the upper 90s and into the hundreds is what you will be looking to do right now through January. Of course, January has just come to an end. So what does that look like now as we move into the next 4 weeks and prepping for going into March? So for the finishers, we're going to be moving through the 40s and towards the 50s. For the bronzes, through the 50s and towards the 60s. For the Robert Mitchalis, we're moving from the 60s through to the 70s. Bill Rohns are starting to push up to the 80s, and your silvers are getting into the low hundreds and tens, really starting to prepare your body now for peak training that's going to come in March. Okay. I think I've said enough actually around prioritizing your qualifying and why. Recover from qualifying, and then that slow winding yourself back up so that you are ready and prepared for starting to train in March. Okay. Now, how important is seeding? Obviously, seeding brings you a lot of peace of mind. Okay. It's very difficult and very nerve-wracking when you are starting in G and H. I've already seen a couple of questions around considering mat to mat. And so we know that you're going to lose time. And mentally, that is tough when you know you're standing on the start line, you know you can't afford to lose any time, and it starts making you anxious right from the get-go. And that is why I like the qualifying early. Okay, because then you can try and qualify to the best of your ability. Whether that's an A seed or an H seed, you are qualifying to the best of your ability. Once that window closes, don't be tempted to keep chasing an improved seeding as you go through March and April, because every time you do a hard marathon, you compromise your training. There has to be some recovery afterwards, and if there isn't recovery afterwards, you can't maintain the quality of training, and your risk of injury goes up. Okay? Never mind the fact that every time you race a marathon, you risk injury, because marathons are just plain hard. It's a very difficult distance to run really hard for such a long time. So if you keep chasing, improving your seating, tired, can't train properly, and you risk injury. And you are far better off spending your time improving your own ability as a runner. Okay, so let's break it down with an example. If you qualify in H batch, you're going to take on the up run, you're going to take probably between 7.5 and 9 minutes to get across the start line. Okay, so that is nerve-wracking and it's a lot of time. If you run a marathon and improve your time by about 15 minutes, then you'll move into G batch. On race morning, you will get across the start line between 1.5 and 2 minutes sooner. So between 5.5 and 6 minutes is what it'll take you to cross the start line. So you'll save yourself 2 minutes on race day. But if you get injured getting that G seeding, if you can't train properly because you got that G seeding, you are possibly going to stagnate or get less fit because of the training that you missed. So on race day, you're going to be under more pressure to be able to do the thing you came to do, which is to run 87 kilometers. However, if you just knuckle down, do the training, physically improve yourself, get stronger, get faster, you will improve by way more than 2 minutes on race day. And so that 2 minutes that you are now losing by staying in H, you'll easily make up by just being a better runner. So go for it now, qualify with the best time you can, but after that, be happy with where your seating is, or raise money for charity to get yourself into CC. But don't work hard and race another marathon to improve your seating. Okay, so that is. There's one last thing that it's not on the slides that I wanted to talk about, and that is that although we're already kind of into the swing of training, we're in January, we haven't started the peak training yet. So one of the things that I really want you to focus on now, early on in the year, is making sure that you look after your fitness apparel. So your shoes and your socks and the kit that you're running on that's comfortable. Effectively, the tools that you are going to be needing to get you through all the training. And if you're in the right shoes for you, shoes for you, and you're in comfortable kits that doesn't chafe and rub and cause, these are all things that really make a difference to both the training and your performance on race day. So use this early training to really dial in on your equipment and make sure that you're in a comfortable kit that works for you. Okay. Now, just this part, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but I just wanted everybody to get the vision. Where are we going? So we've done where are we now? We've done what are we going to work on for the next 4 weeks. Now I want us to look at what's the overall vision here for the year. Okay. We've covered February, March. This is the start of Comrade season, what I call Comrade season. We are in to the peak training or building up to the peak, but we certainly are making a concerted effort to ramp up in March. April are really your peak weeks of training. In May, we go into our race prep. So in May, we are going to be doing what is called the Comrades Long Run. And that's kind of your final rite of passage and your last chance to test your shoes and your kit and where to put the Vaseline and plasters and your nutrition and all of that stuff. And that'll come in May. And after that, we effectively go into a longish taper down to Comrades. And then finally, June is race month. And if in doubt, leave it out. And I will explain that one much closer to the time. Okay, the other thing that you've got complete control over is setting your goal and training at the appropriate level for you as an individual. Okay, this in terms of not getting injured, not overtraining, not getting sick. This is one of the key points, and it's again why we are putting that on the first of the webinars, and that's get on the right plan. So many people will look at the plans on the website and go, okay, I just want to finish Comrades, but if I train for a bronze, I'll make sure that I finish Comrades. Okay, that is not the way you do it. You do it for what you're capable of. The plans are written in such a way that they cater for the ability as well as the biomechanics of that individual. And when I say biomechanics, I'm not talking about your very specific, unique biomechanics, but generally runners that fall in these time categories can handle different loads of training before they break down. Very fast athletes that are running 5.5 hours, 6 hours, 6.5 hours, they look very different to athletes that are running 10.5, 11 hours. They weigh sometimes 46 kilograms. I mean, when a guy or a female hits the ground that is 46 kilograms, the forces and the damage that are done are nothing compared to a 70-year-old, or absolutely a 70-kilogram runner, and absolutely nothing compared to a 90 kg runner. The damage, the level of damage, and the amount of training you can handle is different. Right. So how do you choose? They are up on screen. Finishes are those that qualify. And if you're around a 2:20 half marathon, bronze medal, sub 4.5 hour qualifier, sub 2:10 half marathon. Robert Machali or a sub 10-hour Comrades, 4-hour marathon and a sub 2-hour half marathon. If you want to target a bull run, you need to be around 3:30 to 3:35 on the marathon, roughly 1 hour 45 for a half. Isabel Roche Kelly or a silver medal, you're looking at 3 hours for the marathon and about 125, 126 for a half marathon. And then if you have no friends and you don't like your family, you can train for Wally Hayward, and then you want to be running under 2.5 hours for marathon and around about 72 minutes for a half marathon. So yeah, that's it for the presentation this evening. And yeah, we'll do a couple of questions now, I think, Brad, and then a full Q&A. We'll hit that after we've had some wise words from Comrades legend himself, Sean Micklejohn.
Absolutely, Lindsay. That was superb. Some great comments and questions coming through in the chat, and I think let's get to a couple of them before we get Sean on. But there've been a few that are amazing, and I'm going to ask this one because if we don't ask this one, Shona, who's the head of strength and conditioning here at Coach Perry, will wrap Lindsay and I on the knuckles. Z wants to know, not sure if I missed it, but how important is strength training?
Yeah, so because this first webinar, it's important just to get out some good information and to lay the foundation, so to speak. We just didn't have enough time to squeeze Shona in. It's that important that I would have preferred to have Shona, but she will be on the next webinar. And so I did talk about it and emphasize that we should start, but next webinar we'll get all the ins and outs. But let me just give the simple answer, and that is that strength helps with injury prevention, it helps with performance, and it'll help to make you strong to prepare you for the hills that you have to climb at Comrades.
Awesome stuff. Lindsay, another great question. There were actually a few around this topic, but I'm just going to pop this one up because I think it does sum up the sentiment around Two Oceans. And this one's from Hadman. Hadman saying, is Two Oceans Ultramarathon too early in the training program? It's in mid-April to serve as the long run prep for Comrades.
So this is probably one of those annoying answers that people don't like, because the reality is that the answer to that question is yes. However, you can still use it as your long run, and like, how can I say it's too soon, but you can still use it? And this is the simple answer to that question: is that it's a great race. When you're training for Comrades and building up to Comrades, and as much as everyone would love to run 10 Comrades, as we aren't all privileged enough to have that time or the inclination, etc., etc. And so while we're training for Comrades, of course, you also want to do South Africa's other iconic race, and I'm supportive of that. So then how do you manage it? Well, you manage it by saying, okay, Oceans is going to still be my longest run, but I'm going to do a little top up. And that top up's going to come around about 4 weeks from Comrades. So about 3-4 weeks after Oceans, plus minus 4 weeks before Comrades. And it's going to be between 40 and 45 kilometers. So I'm not going to go back up to another 50 or a 56, but I'm going to do the top up. And I want to tell everyone a little secret, is that both of my fastest Comrades came when I ran Oceans, when the gap was long enough that I did Oceans. And then 3 weeks later, I did 45 Ks, and then I ran Comrades. And both of those years are my 2 PBs for Comrades.
Awesome stuff. And then last one before we get Sean on, Lindsay, this is a great question, because you know you're in Comrades training when this starts happening. Sean says, I'm averaging 50 kilometers a week currently, and I can't stop eating. Not picking up weight, but picking up anything that I can. Want to drop or can do with a 5 kg drop. Any advice on sort of nutrition for Sean? And the truth of the matter is, when you're in peak Comrades training, Lindsay, you're either hungry again or you're still hungry. You just can't decide which of the two.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I always refer to endurance athletes as cows. We just keep moving and mowing. That's what we do. Okay. So yeah, so good question. And my answer to you is to take your time. It's early in the year. You actually want to be overweight when you start your peak training. Okay, so you want to have a little bit of extra kilos on you, and then you're going to move into the peak training and have some really long training runs. And so that weight will come off. You don't have to actively do anything about it. So, and you know, if we do strength training properly, for example, then sometimes we don't lose as much as we'd like to. So if you really do the strength training properly, if you feel like you should be 5 kgs lighter, perhaps 3 lighter with 2 kgs of muscle will be more appropriate and make you a better runner. So yeah, don't fixate on the physical kilos. Have a look at how you're looking physically. Is your shape changing? Are your pants getting looser? But also don't focus on that now. That will come. You want to have a little bit extra before you go into peak training.
All right, great. Keep those questions coming. We love them, and we'll do a full proper Q&A just after our next guest. And I'm so excited to have him on tonight's webinar. He is an absolute legend when it comes to the Comrades Marathon. And if you missed the start of the webinar, just a couple of his credentials. He's a former winner. He was the 1995 Comrades Marathon winner. He's also got 10 gold medals. He's a triple green number holder, and that is impressive in itself. He's finished 31 Comrades. But what's even more impressive about that stat is every single one of them are faster than sub 7:30. So he's got silver or better in every single one of his Comrades, and it's an absolute pleasure to welcome all the way from Howick, from Hilton this evening, not Howick, Hilton, Sean Micklejohn. Sean, thanks for joining us tonight. Great to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks, Brad. Thanks for the intro.
Sean, Comrades has been a massive part of your life for a long, long time. What's been the secret to your longevity?
Yeah, no secret, eh? I think the most important thing, and yeah, Lindsay might have touched on a lot of it in his earlier chat, is there's 5. I always identified 5 crucial elements in my build-up, whatever phase, even when I was starting until I made what everyone's calling a comeback after a 6-year break. Is it's an ultra distance event, so you've got to do long runs. Crucial. You've got to do speed work, and speed work's relative. So for all of us, if you're trying to win the Comrades, or you're trying to run a silver or bull run, whatever, you need to incorporate some. If you're training at 7 minutes a K, you can't expect to race Comrades at 6 minutes a K. Rest and recovery, crucial. Diet is crucial. That goes without saying. What you're going to put in that body of yours is going to count for against you when you try and get out on the road and do some training. So avoid the fatty, greasy stuff. Eat what you can tolerate. And then, rest and recovery. I think I've always emphasized that as much as I can to anybody that looks for advice, and that is, I follow a hard day, easy day program, and often slip in a proper rest day, especially the day before or the day after a race or a long run. So those have always formed a crucial part of my build-up. A little bit of luck involved, not much. I think a lot of it's hard work, and it's glad to hear the word consistency come up. It's a key word in my vocabulary for running, is you've got to be consistent. You can't skip days and weeks and then expect to just come back and carry on where you left off. Another word that I've introduced this year, especially going into my 60s now, not 50 anymore, is moderation. So I'm not 35 anymore, so can't do as much mileage as I used to do, and I can't do as much quality as I used to do. So I've got to keep an eye on that. And then, I think the key build-up period, we're not in that yet. So I get a little bit nervous for people that are talking and getting deep into the Comrades training right now. Run a qualifying marathon, run a race or two, right up until mid-March, possibly even the end of March. And then I always set aside a 10 or 12-week block where its focuses on Comrades. So go and do races by all means, but don't try and race, if that makes sense. So I think a big concern is especially new people to the race, and even veterans, if you can call them that. They go, there's so much to choose from. There's so many races every weekend. You go and take part. You don't treat it as a training run. When I say a training run, you run 20, 30 seconds slower than your Comrades planned pace. So you finish well enough to probably, if you had to, get up the next day and go for a run. I think too many people make that mistake as they run so close to their PBs, week in and week out, or a couple of weeks apart, and start too soon. Get to April, May, Comrades only in June. And they start with the niggles and getting sick in that. So I think that's something I learned quite early on, is the timing and setting time aside just for Comrades. I chose Comrades. I've run lots of other races. Haven't done well in all of them. I've won very few. So London to Brighton is a biggie. So that's late in the year. I've run a couple of 100K World Championships. Also didn't conflict with Comrades at all. I've chosen not to race 2 Oceans ever because my goal was Comrades. So it all depends what your goals are. If Comrades is just a run you want to do to say you've done it, then don't pay too much attention to what I'm saying. But I chose Comrades and I get everything around that. So I will run races, try and run a good marathon in February, maybe middle of March, a couple of half marathons. I haven't done a qualifier, so I'm not too concerned about that. Sophie says hi, the cat. So I will only go into this year with all the experience I've got. I still use the same basic principles. I'm running a marathon late this year, 24th of March, the Durban City Marathon. I'm not saying I'm going to race it hard, but I want to run it comfortably enough to then go, maybe have a week off, and then I've got 11 weeks from Durban City Marathon up to Comrades, and that's ample time to start building the mileage up, 100, 110, maybe 120 Ks a week, and hopefully that's good enough for a silver. I think with age and experience, I can get away with slightly less mileage and less quality. The risk of doing too much of either of those makes me prone to injury. The body is a little bit brittle, and it's not to do with the 62 age tag. It's more the cumulative mileage that's in the body.
Sean, you make so many great points then, and there's a couple of questions that come off the back that I want to ask you. But I think to just summarize that in a couple of key points that I think I really want to drive the point home, because I've obviously worked with Lindsay for many, many years, but you spoke about the consistency and he spoke about that. It's not about doing massive amounts of mileage in a couple of weeks and then being so sore that you can't run properly. It's just ticking over, doing enough, but making sure that you're consistent over the time period. You spoke about rest and recovery. I know Lindsay's a massive advocate of taking one full day of total rest, not doing anything in a week. Obviously, as you get closer to the front end of the field, you can handle more training, but particularly for guys and girls like myself who are not naturally gifted genetically runners, having that full rest day is super important, and that helps with the recovery and the adaptation to the training. And then one thing that I really want to ask you about, which I think is probably a very big lesson in your journey, and I don't think a lot of people realize this, but you actually only won Comrades on your 13th run. So Comrades is this like long-term project. There's very seldom someone who runs their best Comrades in their first and second Comrades. It's a long day and there's lots of lessons to learn, and it takes many, many years to run the perfect Comrades. What advice would you give to the guys and girls who are on tonight who have maybe run a couple and they really want to run their best Comrades this year? What advice could you give them?
Sorry, quite a bit of that broke up, but I think I got the gist of it. I think, so maybe I'm just a slow learner, but I think the adaptation that you mentioned takes time. I never ran at school, so I wasn't an athlete. I played all the ball sports and that. So running was brand new to me when I came down to varsity in Pietermaritzburg. So friends introduced me to it and I started running. And we only ran for 3-4 months of the year. That was when we arrived in end of Jan, mid-Feb. And we ran Comrades, and the rest of the year was partying and studying, and then repeated that for 3 years. But each year I showed improvement. So I started to think, well, I need to refine things, and slowly introduced everything that I mentioned earlier. But you soon can ascertain whether you've got the natural affinity. So the luck I mentioned earlier was, so the genetics obviously play a part of it. Not falling ill in those months, but you've got a certain amount of control over that, but not 100% control, because you might bump into someone that's not well, and then you get sick. So it becomes a bit of a selfish lifestyle, because back in the day when I was competitive, we never had a social life. So you make sacrifices, early to bed, early rise, and you train, and you can have a fridge full of beers and you can look at them all day and you don't even want to touch one, because you know you've got commitments, and it all revolves around running. So you make sacrifices, the family makes sacrifices, but it all depends on your passion and what your goals are. If you want to achieve in running, it's not going to be easy, no matter how gifted you are. It just takes a lot of hard work, and once you've got the formula, and you know what works for you. So all our lifestyles are completely different. I get that. So some of you've got full-time jobs. Bob Delamotte in his day, he was a chartered accountant in a top position in that, but he did the homework, he did the work, and he showed his true potential. So you've got kids, you've got your family and that, you've got lift clubs and all that kind of stuff. So you've got to juggle a number of balls to make it work, and it's all about what you're prepared to do. If you're prepared to do the hard yards, then the dividends will obviously come.
Yeah, Sean, you make such an important point, and this is something that I think a lot of the sort of mass Comrades runners, like the sort of last 60 or even probably last 80% of the field fall into, is that comparison game of comparing yourself to what someone in your club's doing. People talk about it after time trials. I'm doing this sort of thing, and you said you've got to figure out what works for you, because what works for you, Sean Micklejohn, definitely wouldn't work for me. And if I try to do what you did, I wouldn't even make it out of January. That's the truth of the matter. Is you have to find what works for you, and you've done it. You are the walking billboard for figuring out what works, and your sort of record speaks for itself. But one thing that you've done phenomenally well too is you had some health issues as you've gotten slightly older. You took a bit of a break, but you've come back, and it almost feels from the outside that you've come back even better than what you were prior to that. That you've really dialed it in again. You've stepped up again. What was the key to making such a good comeback?
Yeah, so I think the reason for stopping was purely because I was trying to get up to that level for way too long, and it took its toll, and I was getting injured at the wrong time. There's never a good time to get injured, but it would be in that crucial last few weeks, 4 to 6 weeks before race day. So you go into the race with a big question mark in your mind, and as soon as there's that doubt in your mind, then no matter how fit you think you are, it plays a part. So I took a break, 6 years, put on 16 kilograms, and was in a bad shape. But I was there at Comrades every year. I was on the side of the road supporting, and the week after, like a lot of people watching it on TV or from the side of the road, go for a run. And that's as far as I got. I think carrying that weight, the calves would just cry out, and nothing happened. So I made a decision in 2009 to do something about it. So I went and saw a lady in Westville, Megan Coleman, not the beauty queen, but the nutritionist lady. And she did some tests on me, and she took me off wheat, dairy, sugar, alcohol for 10, 12 weeks. And the weight just dropped off me. And it was amazing. I thought I'd have terrible side effects because there's no coffee involved, and no caffeine and stuff like that. And I felt so energized. The weight literally dropped off me, just at the start of running. It wasn't like I was doing huge mileage in that, but that change in diet and that gave me a new lease on life. And then I came back and started running Comrades again, and ran fairly decent times in the 640, mid 640s and that, and into my 50s, and carried on. And that was a good change for me. I think guys that have done 30 Comrades that never had a break, I know Bruce has often mentioned that that's the best thing that I could have done. He wishes he had done something similar. But I think the body did appreciate the break. And I was very fortunate that I got back into fairly good health, and the love for running returned. It was easier weighing 62 kilograms than 76, definitely.
Awesome. If you've got any questions for Sean, please do pop them in the chat as well. Sean, one coming through from Space Online Group saying, what's your main driver for running Comrades, and what are some of the mantras or things you say to yourself when you run? What sort of mental prep do you do for the big day?
Yeah, I think now, it's easy to convince myself that I've done this before. So the experience is there, and I still set goals, and I still know pretty much on the start line what I'm capable of doing. The years when I was competing, different story. It's a big thing. When you're trying to work out in the field of, there's probably 30, 40 elite athletes that have got the physical ability and the natural, genetics and all that can win the race on race day. There's one or two guys that go into the race knowing they can win it. And 1995, I just stopped working in November. 94, forced to the shop that I was working at closed. So this was it. I got an opportunity to stay at home for 6 months. And in my mind, that was the big differentiator between me and some of the other top contenders. So when I lined up on race day, I'd done pretty much the same training as normal. I'd rested better because I didn't have to hop in the car and go and spend the day at the shop and deal with customers and that. So in my mind, I had no excuses. That was the one barrier to winning Comrades. So that's how important the mental prep is, whether you're trying to win the race, I think, or going in for your own personal goal, be it a silver or just a finish, is to go in there knowing what your ability is and what you're prepared, what you've done. And then, it's a matter of ticking the boxes on the day. So I set little mini milestones along the way. You might have heard this before, to think of 90 Ks or 87 Ks on the start line and count down 1 kilometer at a time it's mind-blowing. You're going to get tired and you're going to battle with issues along the way. So break it down into little mini chunks. Do 10Ks, park that, assess how you did, plan the next 10Ks, and before you know it, you're 40, 50Ks down the road, but still just those little targets along the way and tick them off. Feed off the support from the side of the road, feed off your fellow runners around you. That's the awesome thing about Comrades is you're not alone. It's a big field. You share the pain with everyone else around you. I had notes written on my arms, little keywords. And yeah, when I said goodbye to my wife at the start line on 1995, I said to her, I look like a winner. And that's just the mindset that you've got to have if you're wanting to win the race. You mustn't go in thinking you'd like to win the race. You must have a clear goal in your mind and go out and do it.
Sean, we all go through patches, and I'm sure at the front end of the field it's the same, where things don't feel like they are going according to plan. You go through patches where you're feeling terrible. How do you pull yourself through those patches? I mean, we all have them on Comrades Race Day. How do you get out of the dark holes?
Yeah, it's a lot of self-talk. So if you've been there, you've experienced it, it's cramping, or you're hitting a bit of a low in that, you've got to talk yourself through it. Remember what you've done before, previously, and you've got to build on that. And yeah, I'd always try and convince myself, not so much these days, but when you're racing, competing, the people, it's not a one-man sport. It's an individual running a race, but there's a lot of people behind the scenes that come out and support you or second you, and you're doing it for them as well as you're doing it for yourself. So you don't want to let them down. So yeah, you talk to yourself a lot, and you get yourself through those bad patches. I think the saying is the tough patches, tough patches don't last, but tough runners do. So, and that's Comrades. So for anybody, it's a long way, and it starts after 60Ks. So that's when you really got to bite the bullet, and it's hard work the last 30Ks.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a good message for the novices, Sean, is that Comrades is very physical. I mean, you have to train to be able to cover the distance, but it is also very mental. There's going to be lots of times on race day, particularly in your first Comrades, where you're going to feel like, I can't do this. This is just so blimmin' hard. And that's the joy when you overcome that. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. But once you've overcome that and you get to that finish line, knowing that you've pushed through that, where you feel there's absolutely no way that I can actually do this. But when you get through it, it's amazing. I mean, that takes some serious mental strength. And once you've done it, you feel like you can do anything.
Definitely.
Sean, staying on the mental side of things, how do you stay fresh mentally with the training? Because I know a lot of runners, by the time they get to May and it's in South Africa, the sun's coming up late in the mornings, it's getting colder, it's hard to get out there in the morning, and you get to the point where you just want this race to come. How do you stay mentally fresh in the training up to Comrades?
Yeah, a tough one, because you got to love running, and I know for a lot of people it doesn't come natural, so it does seem like a hard graft. So yeah, me, I can run on my own often. In fact, I almost choose to do that, because once you've made a commitment, you've got to be at a place and a time and meet people in that. So I like to have a lot of flexibility. Not that I don't enjoy running with people, but I think if you need mental stimulation and you need that sort of commitment and you need support to help you focus and stay positive, then it's fantastic to run in groups. And I think with novices especially, because they will feed off every bit of advice that you offer them. And the club runs, the group runs with tables and seconding, and that's a fantastic concept. So I think, look around you and always tap into those guys that have been there and done it before, and get their sort of advice and support along with that. I just love running. So for me to get up in the morning, I don't set an alarm. It's my body clock wakes me up I'll go for that run, whether I'm with mates or on my own. If the training's going well, it's easy. It's when you pick up niggles and that, then you start getting mental challenges, and you've got to really work hard through them and get help, whether it's a physio or just a sports massage.
Sean, you've also been a huge advocate for the charities around Comrades. You've done a lot for the various charities. I mean, in your mind, why support the Comrades charities?
Yeah, look, it's a good thing. I mean, the Comrades has got the sort of following to do something for the sport. As an individual, we can do a little bit, and often not enough. But with the brand of Comrades behind you and the charities that they've chosen, obviously they've got very strict criteria. Lots of people like to be on board there, but they choose wisely and they choose carefully, and I think it's a fantastic thing. So the runners are generous. I mean, there's some individuals that stand out amongst those that do fundraising and that, but I think from the field of runners, you're always going to get something small, but lots of people giving a little bit amounts to quite a bit of money.
Sean, it's been an absolute pleasure and an honor chatting to you this evening. I'm sure there's going to be a few more questions in the chat as well. I'm going to get Lindsay back on. I'm sure Lindsay's got a question that he would possibly pose to you. I know there have been lots of questions about the Comrades long run, and we were chatting about that a little bit earlier on as well. Lindsay, welcome back. You got any questions for Sean before we open the floor on the general Q&A stuff?
Yeah, so I'm interested to get Sean's take on this. I was talking to a coach that Sean knows quite well, and he was actually asking me my opinion on the long run, and I was like, look, I've settled on this idea of 50Ks. I said I spent like so long just trying to stop people, and by people I'm talking about the kind of 75% plus of the field who are never ever going to get anywhere near silver, never mind winning Comrades, but to not have to do this like massive long run that takes so much out of them. And Sean said, like, when you do those runs, you really should wake up the next day feeling like you can get up and go for a run. But the problem is, and if you, like when you ran your first Comrades, Brad, you weighed 130 kilos. You go run 55, 60 Ks. I don't care how slow you run it. You're not going to get up the next morning and feeling like you can go for a run. And also, if you are Sean Meiklejohn or a silver runner who's going out for 50 to 55 Ks 4 weeks from Comrades Race Day, you're out there for like 4.5 hours. If you are training for an 11-hour Comrades to run that easy enough, you're out there for 7-8 hours. 7-8 hours. So anyway, I wanted to get your thought. I've been trying to get people to run that shorter and shorter and shorter. People want to ride me out of town when I suggest 40 to 45 Ks as the longest run. I'm never going to win that, but I feel like I've settled on 50K. So yeah, tell us a little bit about you. You never raced Oceans, but you certainly ran it a few times. And your longest run in preparation for Comrades, how long before Comrades and how far did you run? And much more important question is, did you always finish it?
Yes. This is what happens when you share information with coaches. They So if you're trying to win Comrades, a 65K long run 6 weeks out is not uncommon. Just one, definitely one, maybe a 50K a couple of weeks before that. But yeah, these days, chatting to the majority, which I'd like to think I'm closer to the majority now than I was before. The magic distance for me is 30Ks. So in this year's build-up, I'll probably do at least 8 30K runs, a couple of marathons, and I'll do one 50K run. Also probably six weeks out, and then gently ease into the taper.
Cool.
Different story to back in the day in my 30s. It's about being more on the conservative side, that moderation that I mentioned earlier, and consistency. If you're going to run the risk of doing those long runs, you're just introducing that element of risk, which I don't want to do at this stage. Most of us don't want to do that. The elites, the guys running for top positions, I'm amazed. They're doing 50K runs in January and December, some of them. I don't know if they know Comrades is in June this year, but you've got to sustain that for such a long period of time. Some of them will peak in middle of May, early May, if they're doing the sort of mileage they're doing now. So I hope their coaches are introducing quite a bit of rest. At some stage, they need to have a break before they go into those 10 weeks, 12 weeks before Comrades and peak at the right time. But yeah, I think 150K run, and again, it must be much slower than your planned Comrades race pace. If you can't get up in the morning and walk, let alone go for a run, then it's not for you. Limited to a marathon then.
Yeah.
I love that. Thanks, Sean. Really, really appreciate it. And I think that leads really well into our next question, Lindsay, and that's from Hadman saying, I'm a novice. My easy run pace equals mostly zone 2, a little zone 3, but my heart rate on easy runs is a zone 3, zone 4. I still feel comfortable and in control and can maintain my breathing. Any advice?
Yeah, so Herman, the beauty of heart rate is that it tells you the story of what's happening inside. So it's always going to be much better than some internal metric, which is a pace. So in theory, when we are estimating thresholds for pace and heart rate, we hope that those zones overlap a little bit. But the reality is that the heart rate is the one that is literally telling you what your physiological demands are right now. Okay. So I would set your easy runs and follow heart rate. Okay. There are some limitations to heart rate too. There's always limitations to everything, and that's important to know. With heart rate, the two limitations are this, is that there's always a slight delay in what's happening internally before what you see. So if you're running an extremely hilly route, often by the time you realize you're running too hard because your heart rate's drifted too high, you're already like 2/3 of the way up the hill. So you do have to be a little bit proactive when you're running uphill and force yourself to slow down. And the other it's not a disadvantage, but the other thing you have to be aware of when you're training with heart rate is that we get cardiac drift, which is a normal phenomenon that happens in response to two things predominantly. One of those is that we get hot. So as we get hot, the blood starts to pump, the heart starts to pump more blood to the surface of the skin so that you can cool. That means that there's slightly less central blood volume available to go to the working muscles. So that's the one reason why heart rate will elevate slightly as we run for much longer. And the second is that also in response to that heat and to cool us down is that we sweat. Okay? And when we are losing fluids through sweat, the majority of that is coming from out of the blood. And so our actual blood volume starts to decrease. And again, we've got less blood. So the heart has to work a little bit harder to get smaller amounts of blood to do all the same things. And so heart rate goes up. And that's cardiac drift. And that can account for 8 to 12 beats per minute. Okay, so that's why when you're doing long runs of more than an hour, you set the tone for your run in the first hour. So you peg your run to heart rate in the first hour, set what that feels like, set the kind of pace, if you want to call it that. And then beyond an hour, when you start to get that cardiac drift, then you can ignore that heart rate a little bit. But yeah, I would always, for setting up training zones, if you want to train strictly to using zones, use heart rate. The other test that is great, I mean, you said you're in control of your breathing, but if you're in control of your breathing enough that you can hold like a really robust conversation, like if you can argue with someone about whether Jurgen Klopp or Alex Ferguson is the better manager, then if you've got enough breath for that conversation, then you probably are running easy enough. And that's often because when your heart rate's just starting to tip into that zone 3, you can normally feel your breathing is in control, but as soon as you try and talk to someone properly, that's when you'll suddenly feel that there's that shortness of breath.
Cool. Herman, great question. Please do keep those questions coming. Lindsay, you're going to love this. So this is not a paid endorsement of a comment, but Carol Jarvis, who has been training with us at coachparry.com for many, many years, posted that we were talking about the length of the long run, saying in 2019, my long run was 48 kilometers, and I'm still, I'm a 11:30 finisher and ran my second fastest Comrades ever. Absolutely amazing. And I popped it up on screen as well, just so that you are aware. Sorry, let me remove that and pop this on. There we go. So you can scan that QR code or go to that URL, coachparry.com/special. We've been running a special offer on the website for our Comrades Marathon training roadmap, where you can train with us all the way up to Comrades, get access to our team of coaches in the forum. We've got specific strength training to make sure you're prepared for Comrades, and that special ends at 9 p.m. South African time. So in 40 minutes, you can save yourself about 60% if you'd like to take advantage of that, coachparry.com/special, or you can simply scan that QR code as well. Lindsay, here is a great question from Riaz. Riaz is saying the month of Ramadan is in March for our Muslim runners. Have you got any training advice for our Muslim runners who are going to be training through Ramadan this year?
Yeah, so Riaz, I do. And I'm going to try and keep it as brief as I can. So there's going to be some detail lacking in this answer. And, you know, I was actually looking today because I had a similar question on the forum on the website, and we've actually published a good few articles on this. And those are resources available on the website. But essentially, you boil down to two options. Okay, the first option, let's say the one non-negotiable thing is that you can't sustain the full training that you need to, or not need to, the full training that's generally prescribed. Okay, so what we have done over the years is that as athletes go into Ramadan, we kind of maybe do a little bit more than you normally would, and maybe do an event just as you're coming into Ramadan, because then that means there is this period of where we need to recover a little bit anyway, so we can afford to really drop down the mileage during Ramadan. And that's an important thing that you've got to do. You can't sustain high mileage to Ramadan. You've got to bring your mileage down. Otherwise, you're going to get sick and injured, or just really push yourself so deep in a hole that when you come out of Ramadan, you're not going to be able to get it back. So you want to maintain some moderate, consistent training through Ramadan. And then when you train will really depend on you as an athlete. My favorite way is to come home in the evening, and then when you're allowed to break fast, to have a small meal with a little bit of fluid, so that that can sustain that training session. And then when you get back from your run, then you can break fast properly and have your fluid so that you can recover better from your training session. So that's my preferred way. But there are people that they have to train in the morning, and they prefer to do a short session in the morning, come back and have that last meal and fluids before they then go into their all-day fast once the sun has come up. So those are really your two options around when to train. But the important thing is that you really need to keep the training moderate, and to almost try and maintain the fitness gains by not doing too much and pushing yourself into a deep hole. And then obviously when you come out of Ramadan in April, then you will build yourself back up again and try and just be as consistent as possible. But you can't just go from doing this to there. So you've just got to kind of then draw yourself a line and steadily build yourself up consistently. And we have found over the years with the Muslim athletes that we have helped, that has worked really well. They haven't gotten sick. and they haven't gotten injured, which is really the key to them performing on race day.
Yeah, Riaz, actually, while Lindsay was just giving that answer, I just popped onto our website and just went and found the link. So I've popped it into the chat. You can access those. Like Lindsay said, there's a whole bunch of articles on our website about training through Ramadan. So definitely go check those out. You can check them out. Anybody else interested as well, please do click on that link and go have a squiz too. Lindsay, funnily enough, Sean mentioned it with regards to sort of his success, but we've had a great question from Matt, and it's also nutrition related, funnily enough. And just so you know, we will later on in the series of webinars do a very specific nutrition webinar with regards to what you should be doing during training and then also on race day. But Matt wants to know, can you give some suggestions on nutrition both before and during the race, please?
Sure. So look, I really enjoyed that little bit of Sean's talk too. So I've recently read a really great book by Dr. Peter Attia, Outlive. And in there, he talks about these like extreme diets and he as a doctor was like a real big low carb kind of activist, etc., and he then described it like this, and I loved it. Okay, and that is that doing whatever the extreme diet is it's like a plaster cast. If you have a broken arm, we put a plaster cast on because we need to fix that arm. And then when you come out of the plaster cast, you need to strengthen that arm and get it back to doing what it's supposed to be doing. Now, if you've got a metabolic syndrome or you're struggling to lose weight or you're going through whatever, then doing those kind of extreme diets, excellent. Use them short term, get yourself healthy, and then you've got to get into a more moderate, general, sustainable diet. Okay, so with that, what is my advice to you that's not going to take as long, because nutrition can be a very long, involved webinar. So I'll give you 3 pieces of advice. The first thing is this: eat fresh and as balanced as you can. Right, so that means prepare your own foods, buy the fresh ingredients from the fresh part of the shop. Okay, that is the best way to make sure that you're going to eat healthy. The second thing is that the most important part to have some food. You don't have to go crazy, but one of the most important times to have food is in the 30 to 40 minutes after you've exercised, so that you can make protein and carbohydrates available so that you can recover. And then the rest of the day, moderately spread out through the day. Fresh, self-prepared. I think that's the key message. On race day, okay, it's a long day, and you are training and you are racing at quite a low intensity. So you don't have to race on gels. Okay? Gels are great if you're high intensity, need the energy now. But if you are going to be exercising for the majority of the field, 25% of the field will be 9 hours and faster. The rest, the other 75%, are going to be out there longer than 9 hours. Train yourself to eat foods that you can look forward to and that you can sustainably eat for 9 hours. You can't take a gel every 45 to 60 minutes for 11 hours, 12 hours. It's just not going to work. It's going to make rainbows all over the side of the road. So have a few gels. Obviously, you're going to have a little bit of Coke, and there's thirsty on the side of the road, so get used to drinking that. But then also look at things like small sandwiches, jacket potatoes, having bananas, some salty snacks like cheese crackers and potato chips. And I from my Ironman days, I learned that a cheese, one of those pick and pay buns with the crusty cheese on top, with a slice of ham and some mayonnaise, and I chop that thing into 4. And when I see my wife on the side of the road, I just have a little quarter of that. Delicious, breaks up the palate, provides a little bit of of salt provides a little bit of energy, but most important, then allows you to keep going with having a bit more sweet stuff. But I think really where I'm going with this is experiment, experiment, experiment on all your long runs, so that when you get to race day, you know exactly what you're going to be taking in, and that you know you're going to look forward to it. You're not going to get sick of it, and it's not going to make you sick.
Sean, anything that in your experience to add from a nutrition point of view?
Sure, yeah. I don't have a complex nutrition plan. I mean, I pretty much eat everything. There was, when I lost all that weight back in the day, there was a lot of talk. I think banting was the flavor of the month then. I think everyone thought I was following this high fat and low carb diet, but I wasn't really. I mentioned earlier what I cut out, and that aided me in losing all the weight. But yeah, I mean, it's fruit and veg, important part of the breakfast is probably, I won't say my most important meal of the day, but it certainly is bigger than most. And yeah, I won't have eggs every day, but I always have cereal, yogurt, and fruit. But I snack in between meals. More fruit, more healthy stuff, not junk. I'll have yogurt and maybe have some nuts. I'm spoilt in that I often get leftovers for lunch, so I eat well for my size. But I generally think it's good stuff. It's not fried, fatty thing. It's meat and chicken and fish, and lots of vegetables. And I do take supplements, not a lot. But yeah, I think I'm on the straight and narrow pretty much. Still enjoy a beer, glass of wine. It's the days of being as selfish as I was, or as dedicated as I was, as a long gone. But I think I'm still pretty much on the right path.
And as you said earlier, it's all about moderation. So it's not denying yourself anything, but just as you said, keeping it tidy.
Say moderation. We belong to a wine club, and we had wine club on Saturday evening, and I've got a reputation of always going back for seconds. It's like people can't understand how I managed to put away that much food for this slightly built body of mine. But it's probably got a fast metabolism that can work it off, because
absolutely. So it is getting late. We've got a couple of housekeeping questions, one or two more training questions. I'm going to let you go if you're more than welcome to hang around, but I don't want to keep you longer than we don't want to overstay our welcome with you. We're super grateful to have you on, but feel free to drop off if you would like to.
It's been great. Thank you very much. Speaking about supper, I think I'm holding back the family there. So I'll go there for supper. But thanks for having me, and nice catching up with you guys.
No, thanks, Sean. Awesome chatting. Thank you so much. That was awesome.
And always great to see you. Thanks for your time today. I'm going to get Sifiso back on as well. There are a couple of questions just with general housekeeping stuff. Lindsay, Sean just mentioned supplements. There is a question here that I'm going to pop on to you before we get Sifiso back on. And it's from TCM saying, what about supplements? What about things like whey protein and those sorts of things?
So I'm not a huge fan of supplements. I prefer people to get their food from their nutrition from food. However, I'm also pragmatic and realistic, and that is that a lot of people can't get what they need from their diet. So if you are struggling to eat enough, or you aren't getting around to being able to prepare meals, and you aren't getting enough protein, if you are a vegan or a vegetarian, and you can definitely get enough protein from being both vegan and vegetarian, but you do need to eat quite large quantities to get enough protein. Then, so if you're not vegan or vegetarian, and you're struggling to get quantities, then whey protein is a great product to use to supplement with some protein. If you are vegan and vegetarian, of course, then you need something else, soya or pea protein. And just to give you an example, for every 100 grams of whey protein, for equal not bang for buck, for equivalent quantity, you get about half of the protein in a soya protein, for example. So a pea protein slightly better, but I think the point is that if you are struggling to eat the quantities that you need to eat, then yes, you can look at some form of supplementation. But I definitely prefer the natural food, and as you heard Sean, sometimes that means you need to go back for seconds. But yeah, he doesn't, he certainly doesn't need to supplement, and most of us don't. But yes, if you're very busy lifestyle, kids, time, and that's the issue, then yes, some supplements.
Awesome stuff. Thanks for that great question, TCM. Sifiso, welcome back on. Brilliant question from, I think it's ED. ED saying, is there a bus that returns back to Durban after the finish? Like last year, there was one to the start at Pietermaritzburg. If so, what time does it leave? Is there a bus after the race back to Durbs?
I need to go. Yes, there are buses normally that leave from the start to from the finish to the start. I'm just not sure in terms of payment. When can you get tickets for that and how?
Yeah.
But we'll find out that information. I'm not sure if Lindsay
Yeah, so in the past they haven't had pre-sales at the expo, both in Pietermaritzburg and in Durban. There are often the Americans often come around and are looking for the coach's stand, and people direct them to us, but they're not looking. They're looking. We call them buses in South Africa. So they're actually looking for the coach that's going to take them to the start and the finish. But yes, those tickets are sold at the expo, and you effectively can buy one way or two way or whatever the case may be. And but yeah, obviously being an uprun, most people are staying in Durban, and so the buses will bring you back, not need to take you to the start. Yeah.
We're definitely not the coach that'll get you from the finish to back to your hotel, but Lindsay's definitely the coach that'll get you to the finish. That's the
start and the finish. Yes,
exactly. Cool. Another sort of housekeeping question for you, Sifiso. This is from Zayn saying, do you need to be registered with a running club for your qualifying marathon to be accepted, or do you need to be registered with a running club to be running qualifying marathon?
For marathons, I'm not sure if they take those temporal licenses. However, you need to make sure that you get your house in order before the 6th of May and have a club if you are a South African. If you're not a South African, it's not compulsory to have a club. But if you are a South African, you need to have a club and update your details before the 6th of May. If there is a marathon that allows you to run with a temporal license, you can use that event as a qualifier as long as you ran the event and finished in time.
Yeah, I think KZN and Gauteng, you have to have a permanent license to run a marathon. Western Cape, I don't think you do. But yes, that's correct. You can run any marathon. So if you ran an international race, for example, you don't have to be a member of the club at the time of running that marathon, but you have to be a member of the club before the opportunity to update your details closes on the 6th of May.
Yeah, that's correct. I ran Cape Town Marathon in a temporary license, so that is correct. All right, Lindsay, a couple of training questions. This is a goodie with regards to the sort of route tester that a lot of folks do down in KZN in the build-up to Comrades. What advice should you do the Comrades in 3-day run? That's in Durban. It's happening 29th, 31st of, I think it's March. 85 Ks over 3 consecutive days.
Yeah, look, I'm not super keen on these things. I would do 2 of the 3 days. That would be my advice. So splitting up the long run over 2 days, I'd be happy with that. there's also some question on should we run Omdi Dam. Look, a lot of these things from a physical preparation point of view are not ideal, but from a mental preparation point of view, that kind of almost overrides um, the downside to the physical stuff. So what I will say is if you're going to run 83 Ks over some of the hardest terrain that you could possibly choose to run over, that you really want to go into that fresh. So you need to take a few days off training and you want to come out of that and make sure that you have some recovery time so that you don't get injured. So I would probably pick the 2 of the 3 days where you're the most nervous and really want to get a good look at the terrain. I really liked Sean's answer again around like he'll probably do 830K runs. I mean, that's fantastic. And, we don't all live in Natal, but if you do live in Natal, I would do those 30Ks, 30Ks, 30Ks over 3 weekends, and then you've done the whole Comrades route. So, yeah, if you're going to go down from Gauteng, I would do 2 out of the 3 days. If you're going to do the 3 days, treat it like a race in terms of tapering so that you're fresh. Don't treat it like a race when you're running it. Treat it as training and make sure you do it really slowly, time on the feet. And then afterwards, treat it like a race again and make sure that you recover for 3 or 4 days so that you don't get injured. And to be honest, that goes for all of these things. Like Omdi Dam is probably a little bit too far, too soon. It's a great race, a good opportunity to test nutrition. It's a good opportunity to put another psychological one in the bank. So just make sure that you go in fresh, that you come out and give yourself a few days to recover. 2 Oceans, exactly the same.
Yeah, Lindsay, and I think, I mean, we're going to get this question. Funnily enough, we didn't get it tonight. We always get it. And that's about like races like Cosmos 3-in-1, where you're doing 70 kilometers in one day. And I found it super interesting what Sean said about when the year that he won Comrades, that he did 165K run, and that's the dude who won the race. So for someone like me, or another runner who's similar to me, to go and do 70 Ks in a race, I mean, I'm not going to say it, but what are your thoughts on those sorts of long running days?
Look, the guys from Cosmos 3-in-1 are definitely going to poison my porridge at some point in time. And you actually, I think you want to see them do it because that's a race that I can't recommend anyone do. Apparently, the marathon's lovely, so I would go there and do either the 10 or the 21 or the marathon, but I certainly wouldn't do more than one of them. And I certainly wouldn't do all 3 of them. I think it's crazy. And yeah, there are people who swear by it, but from a training point of view, it makes no sense.
Cool. I think it's been an absolutely amazing first round webinar. I'm going to think I'll give each of you a parting shot. So I think let's start with you, and then Lindsay, I'll give you the last word, and then I'll wrap up with some housekeeping, and then I think we can call it a night.
Thank you so much, Brett and Lindsay, and thank you so much to all the runners who came through tonight to join us in this webinar. We are looking forward to hosting you on the 9th of June for the Comrades 2024 Up Run. Just one a question that I've just seen now there on the chat. As a South African, can you use an international marathon as a qualifier? Yes, you can use that an international marathon as a qualifier. For me, we'll see you on the roadshow. If you are in Joburg, see you on the if you're in Pietermaritzburg or Devon. First on the 6th, we'll see you here at Comrades House for the roadshow. If you come in early, you might even get a museum tour. So be sure that you come in a bit early. And after that, we're going to Run Zone in Randbeck. We'll see you there. Thank you.
Awesome stuff. Viso, thank you so much for your time tonight. Coach, parting shot from you for this webinar. Yeah,
I'm going to leave you with 2 things. And both of them are good news. The first one is that you attended the seminar. You're going to get an email with the recording of the tonight, so you can go through everything slowly and really get everything in. But along with that, you are going to get a voucher from Mr. Price Sports. I spoke earlier about how important it is to go and make sure you're wearing your comfortable kit and are kitted out for training and getting some strength equipment for home or whatever it is that you need for prepping. So you're going to get a voucher in there. It does have an expiry date. Unfortunately, our international athletes won't get to use those, but hopefully we'll keep dishing those out on each webinar. But yeah, look out for that. There will be a coupon code for you to use. So check that out and go and check out Mr. Price Sport for your stuff. And then Brad spoke about it earlier. Coach Perry also running a special that you can sign up, and there's 15 minutes left for that if you are interested. So thank you. That was actually a really great start. Loved having Sean on. It was really cool hearing from him. And yeah, good luck, everybody. Hope that we meet each other along the way. Hope to see some of you live on Tuesday next week in Pietermaritzburg, home of Comrades. And thanks, everyone, for joining us.
Yeah, and from my side, thank you so much for your time today. Please do let us know in the chat the one thing that you got out of this webinar. I'm sure there's lots of things, but please, like if there's one thing that you're taking out and you're going to implement in your training, we'd love to know what that is. Pop that into the chat. As Lindsay said, look out for that email tomorrow with the discount coupon code from Mr. Price Sport. Funnily enough, we went and bought a whole bunch of stuff for our team at Coach Perry at Mr. Price Sport, and we all love it. The kit that they've got this year is amazing, so please do go check them out and use that coupon code if you do need some stuff to keep you training all the way through to Comrades. And then, as Lindsay said, if you'd like to get access to the entire Coach Perry team, access to Lindsay in the forums, so you can get help along the way every single day if you'd like. On the way to Comrades Race Day, you're more than welcome to check out that special. It does end at 9 p.m. South African time, so in exactly 15 minutes from now, you can take full advantage of that by scanning the QR code or heading over to coachperry.com/special. From the three of us and Sean Micklejohn, thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe. Best of luck for your training over the next 4 weeks. Next webinar, look out for the dates on your email, and we look forward to catching up with you then. From everyone here at Coach Perry and the Comrades Marathon Association, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.